This is one of Cape Town's main sources of water, a source that could run completely dry within a matter of weeks.
Michigan's governor declared a state of emergency because of contaminated drinking water in the city of Flint.
This helmet camera shows the urgent mission, the military in remote parts of Puerto Rico, children waiting for water.
We have cities that have no water, and this is a real fight coming for this country. You know, I mean, we talk about oil all the time. I think fresh water is going to be the next battle.
Water is increasingly becoming an object of attack and a weapon of war.
We all know in this room that water underpins the health, wealth, and security of the world. Not enough water, too much water, and poor water quality will increase disease, impact public health, undermine economic growth, limit food and energy production, and become an increasing threat to peace and security in many, many regions of the world.
A splash in history, the conflict and compromise of the Indus Waters Treaty. Flowing from the Himalayas, the Indus River system is one of the largest in the world. It consists of the Indus itself and its 5 other tributaries, the Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas, and Sutlej rivers. The Indus has been critical to the existence of vast numbers of people, dating back to the Indus Valley civilization. Under British rule of India, an extensive network of canals was built on the Indus River between 1850 and 1940 to promote agricultural growth, and tens of millions of people came to depend on it. However, the Labour Party's win in the 1945 British election was about to affect British India forever. Tired from World War II, the Labour Party moved quickly to grant India independence, but the British could not get the Indian political leaders to agree on the terms. The leader of the Muslim League, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, advocated for a separate Muslim country, while the Indian National Congress leader, Jawaharlal Nehru, argued for a unified India. To resolve this conflict and to avoid civil war, then Indian Viceroy Louis Mountbatten abruptly announced a partition of British India into 2 new nations. After spending more than 300 years in India, the British set August 15, 1947 as the date for independence, a mere 73 days away and 10 months earlier than planned. Cyril Radcliffe, a British lawyer, was chosen to draw up the lines of partition of British India in just 5 weeks. He split British India into 2 countries, India and Pakistan, and further split Pakistan into 2 provinces, 2,000 kilometers apart. Radcliffe did not specify how to allocate the Indus River system, but recognizing its critical role to both new nations, he did note that some joint control and management of the irrigation system may be found. The abrupt partition ended up being a violent one. 12 million people were forced to relocate across the new boundaries to find a new home. Tens of millions more were torn apart from their homes, friends, and businesses. British partition split the Indus River system, leaving India in control as the Upper Riparian. In early 1948, India diverted some of the Indus waters for its own agricultural use, leaving Pakistan furious. Post-partition, territorial and religious animosities that held the threat of full-scale war were now made worse by the new fight over the waters of the Indus. The parties tried to resolve their water conflict, but by the summer of 1949, they had failed to do so on their own. Searching for a compromise, Indian Prime Minister Nehru invited David Lilienthal, a highly regarded American technocrat, to visit the Indus River Basin and help resolve the conflict. After visiting the 2 new nations, Lilienthal wrote an article in Collier's magazine, in which he argued that the tension between India and Pakistan was economic, and that engineers should settle it, not politicians. He also believed that a third party could help in the efforts to resolve the conflict, with the third party helping with mediation and financing. His idea gained support among many, including World Bank President Eugene Black. Black then contacted the Prime Ministers of Pakistan and India, inviting both countries to accept the bank's offers to help reach a compromise in their conflict over the sharing of the Indus waters.
When you're dealing with an issue as fraught as water, and in a region as fraught as the subcontinent, including Kashmir, I think that there's something to be said for having some type of neutral interlocutor, so to speak.
Representatives of the World Bank, India, and Pakistan met in Washington, D.C. in May of 1952. India and Pakistan made their individual proposals to allocate the waters of the Indus, but no agreement was reached. Nearly 2 years later, with India and Pakistan still not agreeing, the World Bank decided to make its own proposal to allocate the waters of the Indus. While India agreed with the proposal, Pakistan strongly opposed it. After several years of negotiation, it became clear to the World Bank that compromise required agreement in some key areas: allocation of the rivers, financial support for new water projects, providing for a transitional period, and a way to resolve future disputes over the issue. The World Bank worked diligently, seeking the help of distinguished leaders at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, at the United Nations, and even at the Supreme Court of the United States.
The World Bank's involvement as a proactive partner to both countries, as a neutral partner to both countries, was instrumental in keeping them at the table for those many years.
In 1960, the World Bank created another proposal. This time, the proposal was accepted by both sides, finally reaching a compromise. This compromise is known as the Indus Waters Treaty. The treaty stated that India would take over the Ravi, Beas, and Sutlej rivers, and through a great system of dams and canals, Pakistan would take over the Chenab, Jhelum, and Indus rivers. Australia, Canada, West Germany, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States helped with the financing of this treaty.
Without that financial input, I think, from the bank, it is possible that we wouldn't be talking about an Indus Waters Treaty today.
The treaty received worldwide publicity.
Rising in the Himalayas, the Indus flows on through the northern plains to become, with its 5 tributaries, one of the world's greatest river systems. For some 10 years, the use of its waters has been the cause of bitter dispute between India and Pakistan. So it's good to report that agreement on this particular problem has at last been achieved. Over 50 million people will be vitally affected by this great success, largely the result of patient work by the World Bank.
President Eisenhower, referring to the treaty, stated that it was a bright spot in a very depressing world picture of the post-Korean War and Cold War era. World Bank President Eugene Black reflected on the treaty, calling it a moral for nations undergoing water conflicts.
The Indus Commission was established in 1960, not only survives 2 wars between India and Pakistan, but in the middle of one of the wars, India makes payments to Pakistan as part of their treaty obligations. And since then, over and over, every time there's tension, again, the press says there's going to be a war, politicians say there's going to be a war, and every single time the parties go back to the terms of the treaty and resolve their issues precisely to the letter.
Increasing global population and diminishing clean water supply have created many water conflicts worldwide since 1960. The Indus Waters Treaty can help influence countries to compromise in these new conflicts.
Analysts and scholars and government officials and many have looked at the Indus Waters Treaty as a case study of successful water sharing.
Experts emphasize that water should not encourage conflict. Instead, it should encourage cooperation between bitter rivals.
And this question of whether water causes a conflict or whether it causes cooperation, I think the answer really is both. So if you're communicating around water, you're really communicating around all of our aspirations and thinking about our shared future together.
And so it is that A Splash in History teaches that compromise can resolve water conflicts.
Somebody once asked me, is water the oil of the 21st century? And I said definitely not. Oil has alternatives: natural gas, wind energy, solar energy, bioenergy, and what have you. The only alternative to water is water. And therefore, the matter of water is the matter of survival.